One of the most important things that you can absolutely do to improve your sales is to feel confident. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through ways that you can start to improve your confidence when it comes to sales. Because just like any skill, sales is something that you learn. And if you learn and you practice and then you can embody it through practice, then you are going to feel so much more confident in your sales. And the reason why you want to feel confident is not only because it's going to feel good to have a conversation, to feel proud of yourself, but when you feel confident, the people that you're talking to are going to feel more confident. Because the truth is, when we think about success, when we think about sales, and when we think about money, we can always go back to this very simple rule that 80% of your success is actually based off of your confidence in your mindset, which you develop through skills and building that competence, and 20% is tactical. So clearly we'll talk about the tactics in another video, but right now what I want you to do is to actually focus on you, yourself, and understanding your own confidence. Because in everything, we want to be first aware. What I want you to think about is to be aware right now of where you currently are just feeling great and confident when it comes to your sales, how you're performing, how you're talking to people, and where you feel that you are not showing up because of probably competence, that you're not showing up in the way that you want. Is it that you just feel nervous when you're talking to prospects or to leads? Or is it that you feel a little bit worried even doing an outreach? Are you getting nervous or mumbling when it's time to close? Do you feel a little bit stressed when it comes to money? Because the entire sales process itself is pretty long, right? We have the prospecting and then we have close and then onboarding. And when you're in between that and you don't even have a defined process in place, it can make your confidence become a little bit scattered. So first, I want you to become aware of where in the sales do you actually feel confident and where do you not feel confident, right? So outlining your sales process is the first thing that you want to do. Right. And most sales processes follow a very simple way, right? We're prospecting, we're getting leads, we're generating leads. We have conversations with those leads. We ask questions, we diagnose the problem, we offer a solution, we pitch it, we talk about price, we close, meaning there's a yes, we're moving forward, we onboard, and then we turn those amazing clients into repeat customers, repeat clients, and referrals, right? So sales itself, there's a process, and each part of that process is going to require you or your team to show up a little bit differently. So if you can identify the area that you're actually not confident in, that is going to be your number one thing, right? Mindfulness is everything. So becoming aware of what you're not confident in is your first task. Task number two, and number two in actually building sales confidence, is I've said it a few times already in this video. It is competence. How competent do you feel? And so, like everything, this is getting the reps in. This is practicing. This is actually leveling up. So, this is when you do take sales trainings. This is when you do work on your confidence. This is when you understand the essence of sales and marketing. So, you can actually talk in a way that is convincing people that you also feel powerful with, right? So, I like to think about sales as this is part leadership, right? To really show up in sales, it's leadership and it's also communication. Can we lead somebody into the direction that we believe is the best direction for them and understand when it's not the best direction to say, you know what? This isn't maybe the solution for you. And then can we communicate effectively? Communication is just much more than talking. It's understanding. It's getting clear. It's building rapport. It's talking to our clients in a way that they want to be talked to in a language that they can understand. Right? So that is the next step. Step number two is competence. Where in the sales process, in the sales tactics, in the sales strategy, in showing up for calls and conversing with others, where is it that you can improve your competence? Because you don't have to do the entire sales process yourself. And if you're running in a team, there are different aspects of lead generation that could be outsourced or that you can really level up with paid ads and marketing if you don't actually like to do outreach. Similarly, if you are growing big enough and you've got people underneath you, or you've actually got a sales team, you actually don't have to show up on sales calls, right? So you have to understand in your specific role with your specific team, where is it that is where your magic is that where you want to develop more competence, right? So competence is everything. Number three is your mindset and your belief system about sales. Now, if you're like most people, you didn't grow up as a salesperson, you didn't really learn about sales, and maybe you went with your parents shopping to buy a car, you might believe that sales is equated to selling used cars. And no offense to anybody that sells used cars. I think it's amazing. We should all be buying used cars, so somebody's got to sell them. But the idea is this kind of, if you can imagine this like 1980s, 1990s, kind of somebody wearing a suit. Hey, I got this car, trying to sell you maybe a lemon of a car, something that you won't really actually want, and just pushing it down and being aggressive. And just, you got this kind of like negative feel about sales in your mind. And maybe you're shopping and you go into a store and somebody comes up to you and just like is like, hey, how can I help you? How can I help you? And you're like, I don't like that. I like to be left alone. I like to do my shopping. Please, please. And so, what we have to understand is that there are different approaches to selling. And what we often see and believe that there's maybe only one way or two ways to sell, and those might actually not be aligned with what you want to do. So first is kind of a reframe. So I want you to actually think about like, what is your belief about sales? Like, do you believe that it's a powerful role? Do you think it's a transformative role? Do you think it's actually being in a place where you can support and impact more people by having those conversations? Or do you think that it is something a little bit more sleazy or something you just don't like? Because if you are more on this side, then you've got to realign. Because how will you be able to actually have great conversations that will lead to sales when you feel that way? It's going to be a lot harder. So, the first thing is to actually assess and check your mindset. So, one big shift that happened for me is first, you've got to be fully excited about what you're doing and what you're delivering and see the value. That's number one, right? And so sometimes when we think about confidence and we think about sales, what happens is that there's a part of us, the subconscious, the 95% that is dictating reality for you, is that there's something that maybe you don't feel fully confident in yourself. Maybe you feel like you're going to be exposing yourself. Maybe you're afraid of rejection, right? Maybe there's these other hidden beliefs and emotions around actually not just selling, but getting yourself out there, that maybe somebody could reject you. Maybe somebody's going to say, no, you don't want to hear that. Well, you've got to understand that you will hear no when it sales. If you have 100% close rate, that's amazing. That's what we aspire to do. But we also have to recognize that our solution is not for everybody, and that we have an amazing solution for a lot of people. And so when you can step into the idea of, you know what, I am serving other people, when I am selling this, when I'm selling my services, when I'm selling this coaching package, when I am selling, this widget, I know and I believe that it is actually going to be impactful for people. And not just people, your specific person, the person that you are ideally wanting to work with. So you already have done the research, you already know that. And when you can shift that mindset from, believing a certain thing of, nobody's going to want this, to recognizing I'm here to help people and I know the right people are going to come. And I know that when I show up on conversations, I'm only here to impact somebody. I'm only here to provide service. Then all of a sudden it flips. It's not about you, it's about them. And when you can just switch to, it's not about me, it's about this other person that is needing this help, that is here for me. You actually can be much more in a coaching role, and you educate, like in an education and a coaching role. So then you can just help them make the right decision. You're not going to be, navigating someone into something that they don't want to do. That's not your role. You are here to guide them. And if you believe that your service and your solution is the best for them at that point in time of where they are, then that is what you want to offer, right? So it's a mindset shift that you're going to want to make. Now, mindset work, we all know it's it's actually most of the stuff that you're going to want to do. So you can have a conscious level of what it might be that might be preventing you or that might be blocking you from like showing up fully confident. But oftentimes when you start doing the work and you start asking yourself these questions about, well, why is that? Why am I showing up that way? Why do I believe that? What am I actually afraid of? And you can be honest with yourself, radically honest, not just honest, but radically honest. This is when you're going to see a shift in your mindset. So, mindset is everything. The next is funny. It's a silly one, but actually, it does give you a lot more confidence. And this is process. Because when you've done something many times, you've developed a process, right? You can rely on the process. You know where to go in the process. You've designed the process, right? And so, process, having a sales process, meaning you've done it multiple times, you've practiced it, you've built it. And so, it almost is like you're showing up and you just know that this is kind of what I'm doing and this is the flow of it. Process is big. Now, process can also extend to actually your whole entire sales process. When you've got it mapped out, when you've got it defined, what happens? You feel more confident because you have more certainty about what is going to happen. So, process is really important. And within process lies practice. Just and also practice lies in competence, is that it is essential that you practice. If you have a pitch for yourself, you're going to a networking event and you really haven't thought about what you're going to say, you've done yourself a disservice if you went to that networking event to meet other people, to have better conversations, and potentially to find clients. So it's actually practicing your pitch, it's practicing your story, it's practicing what you're going to say in sales calls, it's lining out an agenda, it's actually doing the work to essentially show up in a different way. Now, funny story, I love to do presentations. I love to do teaching. I hope you can see this. And I was teaching a master class about this holistic money framework a few years ago when I was in London. And it was the first time that I had really done that specific one. It was cameras rolling. We didn't have takes. So it was like, I wanted to show up. I wanted to show up with great energy. I also wanted to show up with an amazing transformation for all those people that were watching the video. So I was in my hotel room in London. I was walking through the park and I was doing something that I like to call a mental rehearsal. Because what's interesting is that when you visualize things, when you mentally rehearse them, it is the same. There is science to show this, that your body, your mind actually believes it's happening. And it's wild, some of the stats that show up. Like if you do a mental rehearsal, there was like these basketball players that were mentally practicing doing free throws, clearly a sports fan, doing free throws. And you could see that as they were doing free throws, mentally rehearsing 15 minutes a day, their improvement shot up. I'll try to link this if I find that study. But so it's effective. And so I was just mentally rehearsing my whole entire presentation, how I'd show up, when I would take a pause, what else I would say, how I present myself, right? So it's a full embodied experience to do such a thing. Well, I show up and it was a sensation for myself. I felt so good. I felt so proud about it. And it was all about the mental rehearsal. So it's not that you have to say out loud the things, although that is very helpful. So you're getting used to hearing your voice, but it is practicing. It's practicing how you're going to show up on a sales call. What are you going to say? How are you going to break the ice? How do you actually just start diving in so then you can build trust and rapport? And so all of this is practice. And as you can see, there's a lot to practice in the sales. It's the promotion, it's the pitching, it's showing up on sales calls, it's closing effectively, it's standing ground with your pricing. Like it is something, but it's fun. And so making sure that you practice these elements of sales within, a team environment, by yourself, with a coach, it's essential. So very important thing there. Another thing you can do is, because we have got so many tools with AI, we can actually record and analyze our sales transcripts and our sales conversations so much faster and so much easier. So you don't necessarily need a full team to analyze and coach you. You can start analyzing and reviewing how you're showing up on sales calls, how you're showing up in client meetings, and start to get feedback on this. This is going to be real-time improvement improvement that you can actually see. So every time, again, we're working on the practicing, we're working on the competence, you can say, okay, this is where else I can focus. Let me do it here. Let me do it here. Now, final recommendation for sales confidence, actually two more. So last one is getting in the hype state, right? So changing your physiology. This is essential. Now, imagine I'm showing up and I'm talking like this. Hi. So I'm glad that you booked a call. What was your name again? Boring, right? Like that's not exciting. Like I'm like, oh, okay. So even though you might be nervous, a great way to show up differently is to shift your physiology, right? So you can get up, you can dance for 15 minutes. I remember before a really important meeting that I had a few years ago with two other colleagues, we're meeting with the government, trying to close some deals. Everyone was nervous. We were in the elevator. It was an awkward feeling. And I was like, if we go into that room where we actually have less power because we're going into the room, they're not coming to see us, we're going in there, right? So there's a whole kind of component of power dynamics there. I was like, we're not gonna do as well in this conversation as we would if we had a great state. So what we did, I was in the elevator. I was like, all right, ladies, let's go. Let's do the power pose. And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, all right, let's move our arms. Let's jump around. And it was just 15 minutes, not 15 minutes, 15 seconds of just energy, energy and energy. What does that do? It changes our state. It changes our emotional state. And it was exciting. It was powerful. And we went in a completely different way. We said hello in a completely different way. We greeted, we stood differently. So changing your physiology is going to not only change your inner confidence, but it's also going to change your outer confidence, like how you're sitting, how you're reacting. If you're, like if you are showing the signs, right? Nonverbal communication is really important. If you're showing the signs of confidence or being a little bit nervous. So that is the last one. So what I want you to recognize though in sales and in your sales confidence is that a lot of this is just you showing up and deciding to make a change. It's your narrative that you're going to change. So instead of saying, I hate sales or sales makes me stressed out or I really don't like to be on these calls. No, no, no. We are changing the narrative. We are changing it to an empowered narrative, to something that is going to support us, to going to support our clients, the people that we're going to help. This is a game changer in how you are going to show up confidently in your sales. So if you like this, please leave a review. Please leave me a little comment. If you have any other questions, let me know, and I will see you in another video.